I'm Sarah Squires, Narcissistic Abuse and Parental Alienation Specialist, and this is the second of our series of the truth behind parental alienation. Yesterday we looked at, or in the last video, sorry, we looked at parenting styles. And we're going to follow on from that and go into a bit more depth. But I do need to make a trigger warning for you. Some of the things that we talk about, and as we go through the series, they may trigger you. There's a lot that we talk about, the behaviours, and I wanted to warn you of that. Please watch with caution and take care of yourself. If anything triggers you and you would like some support, do reach out to me. So with that being said, let's start off with the first one. So today what we're going to look at is enmeshment, infantilization or infantilizing children, and Munchausen's. So enmeshment, sometimes known as codependency, is essentially where there are no boundaries within a family unit. Everyone's roles they're subconsciously spoken. No one actually says you're this, you're that. So parents' roles become intertwined with children's roles, and you usually find that there's one person who's at the top of the hierarchy, and they kind of dictate the rules, very much like in a cult, but it's kept by everyone within the family. So it actually can lead to trauma bonding, because the secrets within the family can be so terrible. It can be abuse, it can be sexual abuse, but they're kept within the family because that is the culture of the family, and everyone is so enmeshed together that it is kind of like they're zombified. They're just there. So what this means from a parental alienation point of view is, if someone decides to step outside of that, and I'm going to use the cult thing again, is that if someone steps outside of this culture, they immediately are out. They're out, and therefore they must never be allowed back in, because they may break. That they need to keep everyone in it together, keep all members in, including the children. And that is where the enmeshment and parental alienation are linked, is because it's a survival tactic of the culture of an enmeshed family, that they can't afford for anyone else to leave because it would upset the entire structure. The next one is infantilizing, which we spoke about in Parenting Styles yesterday briefly, but I want to go into it a little bit more depth. So essentially, a narcissist will do this because it's much easier to control someone who is under your control, who doesn't have any independence, and so they will treat their children much younger than their actual years. They will limit opportunities for them to develop naturally and to be independent. They'll do this through excessive criticism. Whenever they make their own independent choice, they will be brought down on it. So eventually their confidence is so low that the children don't make their own decisions anymore. They just go straight to the parent and ask them what they should do, because if you're being told constantly that's the wrong thing, you've done that wrong, you will eventually stop trying. And that's all part of the process. They will tell you that you can't make your own decisions. They will interfere a lot. You find the cutting the apron strings is quite a popular term to describe infantilizing, is that there's no clear end to where that relationship is. There's no independence in the child. They don't go off and make their own choices. They still sort of rely upon the approval of the parent, and that's the other thing, is that they constantly disapprove. So whatever you decide, whatever the child decides to do, they'll disapprove of it. And you can see how that links to parental alienation. So a child who has been infantilized will then, when they decide they want to see their parent, they'll disapprove initially. They will question, is that the right choice? And then eventually they will just downright strongly disagree with them, until the child feels like it's much better not to see my parent because it doesn't cause all these rows. The final one, and this is something that I've noticed from my personal experience, and it's not really talked about, but I do think it's a factor, so I wanted to bring it up, and that is Munchausen's, which we now call fabricated illness. Those of you in the UK will probably know it from Beverly Allen, who was deemed the angel of death. She was a nurse who she would inject children with insulin to cause a problem that she could then go in and save, but unfortunately for some of those children it actually resulted in their death. And also, ultimately it's about the attention that they get. So they get to play either a hero or a villain. So if the parent has Munchausen's or fabricated illness syndrome, they may say they're ill, or they may say their children's ill, so they get all that sympathy. Oh, that's terrible, how are you doing, how are you coping? So they feel like a hero and a victim in that process. And you will find that this is something they do. There's regular trips to the doctors but with no diagnosis. That it may even, if a child is ill, they'll exaggerate it and they'll tell everyone, even when it's not theirs to tell, their story to tell. When kids are grown up or in teenage years, they'll still tell everyone because they get the attention for it. Unfortunately, it can be fatalising in the case of Beverly Allen, because parents will use poison to invoke the symptoms that they want. So if they want the child to be sick, they will make the child sick, but they're not clever enough to know how much to administer, and it can lead to death. Plus the fact that even if it doesn't lead to death, this child is constantly being told that they're ill, or if they are ill, then they're thinking they're just a label, that's all they are. So it massively impacts their self-esteem. So that's just 3 points that we've covered today. We've got more to come in the next video, where we're going to look at pathogenetic parenting and narcissist injury. And this is all to show you what goes on behind the scenes of parental alienation, why they do what they do. Hope you found that helpful. Like I said, if anything has triggered, do get in touch. You can email me at inquiries@thenurturingcoach.co.uk. I'd love to speak to you, and watch out for the next video. Take care. Bye bye.